Hi everyone, in this video I want to show a game between Vladimir Kramnik and Alexander Grischuk. The game was played in the Canada's tournament from 2018, round 1. Let's see the game. I started with d4, knight to f6 and knight to f3, developing the knight towards the center, and g6, preparing the development of the dark square bishop on a1, h8 diagonal. The most played moves in this position for white are c4, g3, bishop to g5, bishop to f4, e3, knight bd2, c3 and b3. The move played in the game. The purpose of this move is to oppose black dark square bishop, and white wants to place the bishop on b2 square. c5 attacking the center and opens d8, a5 diagonal for the queen to enter the game. White took on c5, getting the material, but the most important thing is that a1, h8 diagonal opened for the bishop. Queen to a5 check, followed by taking on c5, knight bd2, blocking the check, and queen takes on c5, bishop b2, bishop g7, followed by short castle e3, preparing the development of the light square bishop. Black king is safe. c4, controlling b5 and d5 squares, and b6, allowing the light square bishop to enter the game on the long diagonal a8, h1, bishop to e2, bishop to b7, short castle, white king is safe. He only needs to move his queen and his opening is done. In this position, black needs to continue the development of his pieces. If he moves the knight to c6, he would finish his opening, but white can attack black queen, inflicting an isolated pawn on the d-file or lose the d-pawn. So, for example, after knight to c6, we have bishop takes on f6, bishop takes on f6, knight to e4, attacking the bishop and the queen. The queen goes to f5, protecting d7 pawn, knight to f6 check, and black has to take with the pawn in order to defend d7. If he takes with the queen, he loses the pawn. So, in the game, black put his queen to c7, rook to c1, placing the rook on the same file with black queen. Another way was to try and exchange the light square bishop with knight to e1 and bishop to f3, d6, controlling c5 and e5 squares, and also freeing d7 square for the knight to develop. White can put his queen on c2 and finish his opening, but decided to improve the position of his knight from d2 by moving it to b1 and then to c3, looking at d5 square. So we have knight to b1, knight bd7, and with this move black finishes his opening. His king is safe, rooks are connected, and all other pieces are developed. Knight to c3, rook a to c8, placing the rook on an open file. In the future, black might open the c file with a6 and b5. White continue with rook to c2. Looking at this move for the first time, it seems strange, but it has three purposes. 1, to defend the second rank, 2, to go with the rook on the open file to d2, and 3, freeze the first rank for the queen to go to a1, forming a battery with the bishop. Queen to b8. It seems that black wants to do the same, put the queen on a8 or the bishop to a8 and queen to b7, and try to drive the knight from f3 away. And then he can deliver mate on g2, queen to a1, a6, intending to play b5, trying to create some weaknesses on the queen side. Rook to d2, rook f to e8. The rook is placed on the e file. Maybe black will want to play e5 followed by e4, and the rook will help with the pawn advance. White continue with rook f to d1. The rooks are doubled on the d file and prevents e5 from black because d6 pawn is unprotected. Bishop to a8, knight to g5. White saw that d5 square is a good square for his knight, and he started to maneuver it to h3, f4, and d5. And if black would drive the knight away with e6, he would have a weak pawn on d6. If black plays queen to b7, threatening mate, white can respond with bishop to f3, exchanging the light square bishop, and there will be no danger for white. Rook to c5, attacking the knight, knight to h3, and b5. Black starts a minority attack on the queen side. Usually in this position, players should attack opponent weaknesses, and if it's not possible, then he should try to provoke some weaknesses. And this minority attack is one of the methods. Knight to f4, b takes on c4, and bishop takes on c4. And in this position, we can notice that white has a pawn majority on the queen side, and black has a pawn majority on the king side. If white would manage to exchange all his pieces, he would win. Black continues with rook to g5, putting pressure on g2 pawn, knight c to d5, blocking the bishop diagonal, and in the same time opening a1, h8 diagonal. Also, the rook is no longer able to come back to c5. So for the moment, black rook is stuck on the king side. Knight to e5, going forward, and the light square bishop is attacked. The drawback of this move is that the rook is short of squares, and white reply with bishop to e2, knight to e4, attacking the rook, and the rook goes forward, attacking the knight. Knight to c5. In this position, white used the fact that the rook is misplaced on the g5 and attacks it with h4. Rook to f5, and the rook is attacked again with e4. So black is forced to give up the exchange. Rook takes on f4, knight takes on f4. So white is an exchange up, and black grabs up the pawn from e4 with knight takes on e4 and knight to d5, blocking the communication of the bishop with the knight, and the knight has to move. Knight to c5, and here white should continue his attack and make attacking moves in opponent territory. If attacking moves are not working, he should try to improve the position of his pieces. In this position, a good attacking move would be h5, or improve the queen position from a1 to c1 and then to e3, followed by queen to h3. In the game, white played rook to b4, attacking the queen, queen to a7, and knight to a3. This is a move back. Usually moving back is not good without any provocation. So another way for white was to continue pushing pawns on the king side with h5, but in the game black attacked the rook with a5, rook to b5 going forward. Black played knight to e6, and here white decided to give back the exchange and win a pawn with rook takes on e5, d takes on e5, bishop takes on e5, queen to c5, attacking the bishop, bishop takes on g7, knight takes on g7. As we see, white is trying to exchange all his pieces and win in the endgame using his pawn majority from the queen side. Queen to d4, trying to exchange queens, and black exchange queens. In this position we have an endgame, and the plan in this phase of the game is to attack opponent weak pawns or push our passed pawns. In this position, if white managed to grab the pawn from a5, he's winning due to his connected passed pawns. So a good move for white would be rook to a4, attacking this pawn, and black needs to prevent this plan. Also in the endgame, the king is a valuable piece that needs to be brought into the game. Also the king works very well with pawns. In the game, black prevented rook to a4 and played bishop to c6, controlling a4. Rook to d2. White could have attacked the bishop with rook to c4, but after bishop to b5, the bishops would be exchanged, and white didn't want this. Rook to b8. Another way for black was to bring first the knight into the game, but black wanted to push a4 and prevent white to play b4, because white wants to avoid pawn exchanges. Usually the part that defends wants to exchange pieces and pawns, and the attacking side should avoid this scenario. It's best for white to fix weak pawns and then go and pick them up. Rook to c2, attacking the bishop, bishop to e8, and rook to c7. entering the 7th rank, attacking e7 pawn and also looking to go to a7, winning the pawn. Now we can see that knight to e6 was much better than rook to b8 2 moves ago, because the knight controls c7 square, king to f8, protecting e7, rook to a7. This pawn cannot be defended, so white pushed it to a4, b takes on a4, rook to b1 check, king to h2, rook to b4, double attacking a4 and h4 pawns, a5, rook takes on h4 check, king to g1 and rook to a4, attacking a2 pawn. White defended this pawn with bishop to c4, bishop to c6. Black should have brought his least active piece into the game by playing knight to e6. The drawback of this move is that white can win a tempo by attacking it and then push the pass pawns. And this is what happened in the game with rook to c7, bishop to e8, a6, knight to h5. The problem of this move is that it's not dealing with white threat to bring the knight to d5 and attack e7 pawn for a second time. In the same time, the knight threatens to jump to b6, controlling a4 square and white pawn can't queen. In this position, black is losing material. In the game, we had knight to d5, and after this move, black resigned due to the double threat. A possible continuation would be e6, attacking the knight, knight to b6, rook to a5, a7, bishop to c6, controlling a8 square. The bishop is free, so white takes the piece, rook takes on a7 and a4. So we can stop here. White is a piece up and has another passed pawn. So this was the game between Vladimir Kramnik and Alexander Grischuk from the Candidates Tournament Round 1. I hope that you found this video useful. Please watch other games from my channel and leave some comments and suggestions in the comments section. See you next time. Bye.